right, everybody, what's up? Welcome to week 3 of the Private Money Club Quickstart webinar. We are rocking and rolling. It's the extravaganza. It's the revolution. It's the real estate private money ride of your life. Whatever the folks are calling it these days. We're here learning. So shout out to everyone that's on this call. And if you're here for the first time, type it in the chat. I'm curious. If you're tuning in for the first time on this weekly webinar, let me know in the chat box. This is a real interactive webinar. So get your thumbs warmed up. If you're on your phones, get your fingers ready. If you're on your laptops or at your desktop. And all right, cool. Welcome. Couple first timers. Love it. All right, cool. So I look at this weekly webinar as like a kind of like a training ground for private money. Whether you're lending or you're borrowing, practice is so important. Understanding how to do these types of deals, knowing what to say, how to say it. We don't want to be rusty. So when opportunity strikes, the idea here is we're creating routines, a place to practice, a place to learn, a place to stay sharp, regardless if you're brand new or super experienced. Like my friend from Long Island is looking to raise $30 million in his latest deal, right? This is a webinar for everyone. I'm really excited. So I always kick things off here with a disclaimer, disclosures. I'm really big. Those of you who have seen me teach before, I'm really big on disclaimers and disclosures. These keep us rooted. They keep us grounded. This is not easy. Real estate is not easy. It's difficult, right? I think that's why it can be so rewarding. But remember, like I like to teach using real life examples. So if I say, hey, here's a deal where as a lender we made this, or here's a deal as a borrower we made this. Remember, real estate's unique. There's no piece of real estate that is exactly the same. So therefore, no deal is ever going to be the same. There's no contractor that's going to be the same, no repair estimates that are going to be the same. Everything's different. By attending workshops like this, webinars, classes, surrounding ourselves with the right team, real estate attorneys, real estate agents, licensed contractors, that all helps minimize a person's risk in this business, not just from the borrowing standpoint, but from the lending standpoint. So if you were on the call week 1, the first thing we talked about was building out that team. I'm curious to see how it's going for those of you who are on the first week's call, how you've gone about building out your team. And that's also how a person increases their credibility in this business too, right? So we're big on this. Real estate's risky. Private money lending's risky. We're working on the fundamentals here every single week to help reduce that risk. All right, let's go. Here we go. Private Money Club Quickstart. Welcome to the party. For those of you who are meeting me for the first time, my name is Noah Harris. I'm a real estate investor, first and foremost. This is what I do for a living. I'm out of Columbia, South Carolina. My goal for anyone that has an opportunity to learn with me, and I have the opportunity to learn with you, is for you to have a 100% track record. Whether you're looking to borrow or you're on the other side of the coin and you're looking to lend money, there is nothing that would make me happier than meeting you one day face to face. You come up to me and say, hey, Noah, remember me? I was on your Quickstart webinar week 3. I just wanted to let you know 100% track record. That's what it's all about. What we're going to do, what we say we're going to do, right? Private money lending is relationship based. I know you guys have probably heard the term asset-based lending before, and sometimes private lending can get caught up in that asset-based bucket because the house, the piece of real estate that we're using as collateral, right? That's an asset. Lenders care a lot about what that asset is, right? In regards to how much we're going to lend, of course. But above all else, private money lending is relationship-based. It really is. I think that's one of the things that I teach you how to have great relationships with your lenders. If you're a borrower looking to raise money over and over and over and over again, you don't need 30 people. You don't need 20 people. You just need 4 or 5 that you treat right. You give them a great customer service experience. You keep them plugged in. You communicate well, and you guys can do deals over and over and over and over again. As a lender, same thing. One of the biggest complaints I hear from lenders is I got to find somewhere to put my money, right? Well, hey, you don't need 30 different investors that you're lending all your money to. Go find 4 or 5 really, really good ones that you can do business with over and over and over again, which is awesome, right? So put your lenders on a pedestal, put your borrowers on a pedestal. We need each other. It's win-win. All right, let's go. All right, cool. 76 people in climbing. That's awesome. Here's the game plan. Every single week, this happens Thursday, 1 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. We start on time every single time. I'm going to keep it real estate. If you've been on other Private Money Club webinars, like Money Club Mondays or the Wealth webinars, there's all different kinds of cool opportunities that Chris Naugle and Stephen Nagy present to this community when it comes to lending and borrowing. We're keeping it real estate. So if you're in the room right now and you're like, hey, I want to figure out how to fund my next fix and flip, my next rental property, my next Airbnb, my next land acquisition, cool, you're in the right place. If you're in the room and you're like, hey, I want to figure out how to put my money to work at a really nice interest rate, double-digit rate of returns, have it secured by real estate that's worth way more because I understand real estate, I like real estate, boom, you're on the right webinar. Let's go, right? So we're going to keep it just real estate for these webinars. Participation is encouraged, right? I like to know that my computer is working, the internet's working. So right now, let's do a roll call. If you are a borrower and you're on this call, just type borrower in the chat box. Type borrower in the chat box if you are a borrower and you're on this call. Let me know. All right, cool. Here they come. Borrower, 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 borrower. All right, awesome. If you are a lender and you're on this call and you want to put your money to work, just type lender. What's up, Moki? Oh, yeah. Boom, 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 boom. Everyone's coming in. All right, cool. Lender, borrower, lender, borrower. Hey, is there anyone that's both? I saw a couple boths. I got lots of friends who they fix and flip houses, so they're borrowers, but then they have IRAs and they want to put that money to work. So they also are lenders at the same time. Beautiful. You guys get it. Awesome. All right, cool. All right, great response. Thank you for that. You guys are doing great. 79 people in climbing. This is awesome. If you have any questions at all, as you can see, the chat box stays super active. So I have a hard time keeping up with the chat box. So if you have any questions, just type them in the questions. And that way I can see it. I can check it off as being answered and we're good to go. I got the PMC team in the chat. So if you are a PMC, Private Money Club, one of our friends, either Jose, Shauna, Joel, Xander, they're here, they're in the chat. So if I miss a question, they're there to help you and support you any way, shape, or form that they can do. And last but not least, all experience levels are welcome. What's up, Jose? How you doing, my man? So if you're brand new to real estate investing and using private money, or you're brand new to the idea of lending money, you're going to learn a lot, right? And it's kind of cool because you get to just jump over all the crap and you can just get right into what works, right? You don't have to figure this stuff out. That's why you're on this webinar. If you're experienced, you're going to love this too, because it's just a matter of practicing, right? Maybe I say something a little bit different. You're like, wow, I think I'm going to incorporate that into my private money lending pitch or how I present my deals, right? So no matter where you are on the spectrum, same amount of love for everybody. We're really excited for this webinar here. I'm really excited to share with you what I'm going to be talking about here today. All right, cool. Let's go. I have, there's really 4 areas that I'm going to help you with every single Thursday. And you know, guys, I used to travel all over the US and work with different investors in different states and things like. One of the things that I found is people really love private money, but they were always like hesitant if they'd never done it before. Right. And sometimes we get stuck in our ways. Like if you've only funded deals with like institutional lending or hard money lending, then maybe that's all you know, or maybe your own cash. Right. And so when the idea of private money lending comes into play, it's like everyone knows it's like the best thing since sliced bread, but they just haven't done it yet. And lots of times if I ask people, hey, what's going on? Tell me a little bit about why you haven't dove into private money yet. It's usually credibility. They're like, well, I'm used to working with a business. I'm not necessarily comfortable having conversations with a person who's going to take me credible. Or maybe they're missing a couple things as far as like how it all works with the clarity. And if you don't have those 2 things, the confidence stinks, right? So if we work on the credibility, the clarity, the confidence is going to go through the roof. And community is also super important. It's tough for a person to feel comfortable lending money on real estate if they don't know who to go to. And it's tough for a person to have a conversation with someone about them becoming one of their lenders if that person doesn't even know what private money is, right? So we have this really cool community here, and I like to compare it to like a fishing pond, you know, where like everyone in the pond, you know, if you're on the dock, you throw your line in and you're looking for lenders, it's very easy to link up with someone. If you're on the dock and you're looking for a borrower, it's very easy to look up for a borrower because that's who's in our fishing pond, right? So I just don't know sometimes if you guys know how good you have it We're going to talk more about the Private Money Club here. And I'm seeing these people presenting deals on Mondays with Steven in the Private Money Club. I'm seeing deals posted. And I'm telling you right now, if you have a need for funding or you want to find good people to lend to, this is the spot. I'm preaching it to my community here in South Carolina. I'm like, you got to get in the Private Money Club. I think sometimes, if you're like a parent and you tell your kid to do something, then the kids are like, whatever. But if someone else comes along and is like, hey, you should probably think about this, the kids are like, oh, it's a great idea, right? Parents, you know what I'm talking about. Get in the group, get in the club. This webinar is all about how to leverage it, right? So I'm teaching you what to say, especially on this webinar here. I'm going to share with you exactly what I say to get deals funded. Each class that we do, this is how we're going to do it. If you're first time on the call, each class that we do, we're going to do some fundamentals. It takes like 5 minutes. And why do we do fundamentals? Because that's what the pros do. If you look at basketball teams, every single practice, they're practicing free throws. My kids play hockey. Every single practice that they have for hockey, they're doing skating drills, fundamentals. So we're going to work on some of these fundamentals when it comes to private money lending, because my goal is to have them become like subconscious in your mind, like just how you can blink and breathe without thinking. I would love for you to be able to repeat back the documents that as a lender you require to do business with a borrower, right? And so those are the things that we're going to practice. And then every week I'm going to give you a different lesson. So we'll practice some fundamentals, and then I'm going to add something new to the mix, which is going to be awesome. At the end, I'm going to give you some assignments so that you can continue to build momentum. So it could be something as simple as make sure you schedule on your calendar right now to be on the next call. Or it could be something as simple as, hey, practice saying the documents that we require every single time as a borrower, right? Or it could be, whatever. I'm going to give you some things to work on. This week, I've got 7 different things. All you got to do is pick one. That's it. So I try to make it super simple to build momentum, to get better at this. All right, get better at this. I love this. This club's amazing. Thank you, Hope. You're amazing. Hope, where have you been all my life? This club is amazing. All right. Hope gets it. And it does come down to repetitive and practice. And this community provides so many different opportunities to just learn. Like they do so many of these weekly webinars and free webinars. So Hope, you're absolutely right. This group is amazing. So last week, I'm curious to see who took action, who made some moves. Right now, we've got 94 people on the call and climbing. Who made some moves? These were the homework assignments last week. So if you were on the call last week and you're on the call this week, type me in the chat box. Type me in the chat box. All right, welcome, Norma, welcome. If you practice the offer formula that we talked about last week, type me in the chat box. If you practice some of your fundamentals, type me in the chat box. If you created a private money club profile, let me know. That would be awesome if you did that. It's free to be a member, and then they have the premium membership, which allows you to do some other stuff and network a little bit different, but it's free. Work on the profile, check it out, right? I'm telling you guys, right? Private money loan, what is it? What is it? I'm hoping for the folks that have been on here a couple times, this is starting to become repetitive in the best way possible, right? A loan secured by real estate. The 4 magic words that we love to see, that we love to say, just like a bank. Just like a bank. It's a private money loan is a loan secured by real estate, and it's secured the same way that a bank would do it. These are big ticket items I'm sharing with you guys here. It might seem silly, simple, but I promise you, if you get really good at explaining this, talking about it over and over and over again, then it's going to be real easy to have people wanting to fund your deals. And as a lender as well, guys, just change the wording, right? Private money loan. I lend money, but the money that I lend is secured by real estate, just like a bank. Oh, okay, cool. So as I teach these fundamentals, all you got to do is just put yourself in the shoes of, am I the borrower or am I the lender? Because all you got to do is just switch up the wording a little bit, right, to start having these conversations. I know that we have a lot of lenders on the call today, so I'll give you guys a tip. Lenders, you should be, if you're interested in putting your money to work, let's get within our communities, our Facebook communities, our coaching communities, our local real estate investor associations, and find people that are flipping houses. Go find the person that's paying cash. Go find the person that's using hard money lending to fund their deals. They have a track record. They're active in the business. Find it. Make sure you're interviewing them. Make sure they know what they're doing, and then tell them to start working with you. Say, what are you doing, paying 14%, 4 points, not getting all the money? Let me take care of you, right? Let's cut through the red tape. Have you ever thought about private money lending? I'm a private money lender. I lend money secured by real estate, just like a bank, right? Those four little words at the end there are golden. So make sure you practice that, okay? If you need a new tattoo, maybe that's what you get, just like a bank. If you need a new tattoo, I don't know, right? That might be some good merch for the Private Money Club next round of merch print. All right, cool. We pay anywhere, and again, this has changed for you. This is, as a borrower, this is what I do. We pay anywhere from 8 to 12% annualized interest. Each loan opportunity is unique. As a lender, you can say the same thing, right? We charge anywhere from 8 to 12% annualized interest. Each loan opportunity is unique, or whatever your interest is, whatever the terms are. But you see here, what we're doing is we're kind of like building these conversation pieces. We're building these, some people call it an elevator pitch. But if you've ever taken my accelerator course, the way that I teach elevator pitches, it's not a 30-second explanation of your business model and getting someone really excited to do business with you. The elevator pitch is, I call it the elevator because there's different floors, there's different steps, there's different things that we say, and we go up the elevator one floor at a time, right? So keep that in mind. This doesn't have to be something, you're not going to meet someone 10 seconds later, they're going to be like, oh, can I give you my retirement? That's not how this works, right? You're building relationships. So these are different floors within those relationships, right? So figure out what you pay, what you pay to borrow money. Figure out what you charge for lending your money. Okay, show me the money. Every single time that we do deals, and I have this here, this slide right here. I have this here because anytime someone's come to me and said, "Hey, no, I lent money and it didn't go how I thought it was going to go," right? I feel like I'm in trouble here. It's usually if I ask them, "Hey, what type of documents did you have? Who prepared those documents?" That's usually 9 times out of 10 where the issue is, right? So as a borrower, here's what we provide. We provide our lenders with promissory notes. We provide them with a mortgage or deed of trust, depending on which state they're in. We provide personal guarantees, right? Because lots of the loans are going to be in our LLC, but in addition to the promissory note, we also provide a personal guarantee. And just like the bank would want, we're going to also provide them with insurance, right? We're going to list them on our insurance. Some light bulb moments will start going off if you start. Has anyone practiced this? Because I've been sharing this the last couple of weeks. Has anyone been practicing this or talking to a neighbor or a colleague or a family member or something? Hope has. And what really seems to get people who have never done this before, in the Private Money Club, it's great because everyone knows what Private Money Club is, right? But if you're talking outside to people and you're talking to family, friends, people in your circle, when you tell them, hey, these are the same documents that you signed when you bought the house that you lived in. Donald said it was rough. My man, hey, 2 claps for Donald. You did it though, man. That's what you think. The first time I said these things, it was came out like butter, like I'm super smooth or something like that. You guys, I've said this 10,000 times at least, right? So if you're Robert, great job for practicing as well. So here's the thing. That's why we do this, right? I commend those who are going out and having conversations. And just know this too, guys, as you're talking to people, this doesn't have to happen in 5 minutes. As long as you're planting the seed and someone comes to you with a question, here's what I would do. If you didn't know the answer, I would say, you know what, that's a great question. How about this? Let's grab coffee next week. Let's hop on a phone call next week when we have a little bit more time to explain it, right? But you're thinking, I like how you're thinking. And then you go figure out what the answer to the question is, right? This doesn't have to happen right away. But the fact that you're having the conversations and my guess is, Donald, you truly believe that you're helping people. You truly believe that you can pay someone 10, 12, 13, 14% interest on their money as opposed to them putting it into something like a savings account or whatever that isn't earning them any money, right? And that's why you're having those conversations with folks, right? Donald said, right, exactly. So as long as that passion's there, it's all good, man. Just let them know, hey, look, I'm gonna find that answer out. I'm gonna go get it for you, right? And let's link up next week or in a couple days, right? So good job, guys. We're gonna keep practicing this while we log on every week, okay? 99 people and counting. Let's get to 100. Let's go. Who's gonna be my next person to log in? I can't wait. All the documents are prepared and recorded by licensed professionals. Okay, so we've got our documents, but it's not me that's going to be printing something offline and trying to fill in the blanks. This is all going to be done through a real estate attorney or title company, right? And anytime I've seen an issue with private money lending, it's because not only did that person not have the documents, but there wasn't counsel involved. They didn't wire the funds to escrow or to the real estate attorney. They wired them right to the borrower, right? These are big no-nos, okay? So if you want to get great at private money lending, surround yourself with a team before you start asking people for funds. Know who your real estate attorney is going to be, who's going to be doing your closings, so that you can take that potential lender and refer them right over to the attorney that you got picked out that's going to give them a great customer service experience, okay? Good stuff so far. These are the fundamentals. This is a new slide. Okay, I added this. I say this all the time. You've probably heard me say this 100 times on these calls, but I thought, you know what? This would be good for the group if I put this in writing and they can take a picture of it. They can screenshot it because, here's the deal, guys. Where else can a real estate investor borrow all the money that they need to fund a real estate deal without having to go to a bank, right? Where else can a person put money to work at a great interest rate and have that money secured by an asset that's worth much more? Okay, so if your goal is lending and the borrower is thinking these thoughts of that first bullet point, gosh, this is fantastic, then you did a good job of explaining. If your lender's thinking this, where else can I put money to work, have it secured by an asset that's worth much more, and make a great interest rate, where else can I do that? You did a good job. Okay, so let's start practicing this too. Put this in your what do they say, the arrow in the quiver or whatever. Put this in your repertoire. Practice this. All the same, go back and watch the replay and get really good at saying this stuff too. Okay, cool. All right, love it. And if you got any questions are in the questions. Chat in the chat. That way I can make sure I go and answer all the questions. I think I saw some people post some questions, but it might not have been for me. Maybe you're just networking or whatever. Okay. All right, cool. Here we go. So last week, I'm building upon last week. So if you're on the call for the first time, you won't be lost. I'm gonna cover these slides here so you can kind of see what we talked about. So last week I shared with the group a quick formula that real estate investors and real estate lenders can use to figure out if it's a good deal. Right? Why is this so important? Well, borrowers can use this to figure out how much they should offer when they're trying to buy their real estate. We use fix and flips as an example. We're going to play off of that here today too. Lenders can use this quick formula to see if the deals that are being presented to them are in fact good deals. The better the deal is for the real estate investor, the safer it can be for the lender, right? Because they're not overpaying, so on and so forth, right? So we did this, what we call back of a napkin analysis. So here was the formula. First time on the call, take a picture. My salty real estate veterans, you're going to be like, oh, this is the Mayo formula. Of course it is. Here's what I would recommend doing. If you're brand new, write it down, learn it. If you're seasoned, write it down, learn it, and then go teach it to everybody that you meet. Go find your top 10 real estate agents and go show them exactly what you look for when you're running your numbers so that they can go make all the offers for you. I don't make any offers. My real estate agents go out and make all the offers and they bring it to me. Hey, this one meets your formula. Great. Let's go look at it. Right? So I'm not wasting any time. So if you're a seasoned vet, share this with your sphere of influence so they can go find you deals. If you're just starting out, this is like the backbone to what we do as real estate investors. Okay. So we take the after repair value, what the house is worth once it's all fixed up. We multiply that by 70% and subtract the repair costs. And that's going to give us the maximum purchase price that we should be paying, right? We can offer much lower, but we just don't want to pay more than what that number is, right? Okay, cool. So after repair value, 300 grand. Here's an example, right? We talked about this. If we had a house, we know it's going to be worth 300 grand. It needs $50,000 in repairs. Then I'm only going to pay 160,000 for it. Now, here's why this is so important for today's class. Okay, I got 30 minutes to teach this to you. Okay, I tried to get through that first half real quick so I could spend a lot of time teaching this here to you and why this is so important. Take a picture of this, write it down. I'm going to be referring to these numbers and this example for the next 30 minutes. Okay, let me talk about this framework here. Okay, this formula here is what I would consider my buying criteria. Okay, so if you're taking home notes at home, make a note next to this and put buying criteria. Real simple. If a house doesn't meet these numbers, then we don't do the deal. If it's a fix and flip type of situation, okay? That's our buying criteria. That's my company's buying criteria. What I'm going to encourage each of you to do is to figure out what your buying criteria is. What do your numbers look like? Okay? If you're, if you're a real estate investor, and you're on here and you're looking to borrow funds. And by the way, lenders, I'm giving you like X-ray vision as to how investors think so that you know what to look for when you're talking to people, okay? And as a lender, I would start asking questions like, do you have a buying criteria? What does your business model look like? And see how the borrowers answer these questions. Right? If you're a lender, do you want to work with someone that doesn't have a buying criteria or doesn't have a business model? They're just buying houses because they have money now because you gave it to them? That seems crazy, right? So let's start asking people, what's your buying criteria? What does your business model look like? Each of these numbers here is our buying criteria. So let's just say, I'm using Columbia, South Carolina as an example because this is where I live. So a lot of people seem, not necessarily first time home buyer. Maybe might be like the second home a person's buying. Good, pretty good school district, something along those lines. It might be right around 300,000 here in Columbia. And I focus on that price point because it's a very large buying pool. So when I have a house that's beautiful, fixed up, and everything's perfect, I've got as many eyes as possible looking at that property, right? So that's why we love these price points. A buying criteria could also be, it doesn't have to be just the numbers. You could only buy, I could say, hey, we buy houses for around the $150,000 price point. We put 50 into them. We relist at 300. We only buy 3 bedrooms or more. We only buy houses that are 1980 and newer. Or, we only buy houses in these zip codes. We don't buy houses with basements. Like, you can figure out what your buying criteria is and you can get super specific with it. But as you start having conversations with lenders, it's good to have something, right? And so, and start with the numbers. And if you want to get more detailed, I learned this from Chris Naugle. I mean, I've heard it before probably, but Chris is the one who really drove it home for me. And that was niche is rich. So if you're a lender, are you going to want to lend to the person that's got 50 different things going on business-wise, and they're buying in 87 different states, and they're trying to do Airbnb, short-term rental, fix and flip, rental properties, senior living facilities, mobile home parks? Like, that to me is like, whoa, that's super stressful. How many people you got working for you? 100 people? Like, that sounds crazy. I would much rather like to lend to the person that's has a conveyor belt type of setup where this is what we look for. These are the properties that we take down. We've done it 100 times, and just kind of create that assembly line, right? They've gotten very nichey with the type of property that they're buying and the product that they're putting on the market. So it's something to think about. Niche is rich, right? So if you're a real estate investor, know your numbers and figure this out, okay? Figure this out. This is the first step for what I'm about to teach you here, because if we don't have this figured out, If a lender comes up to you and says, give me an example of what it might look like working with you. And if you're like, well, sometimes it's 1 million, sometimes it's 100,000, it just depends on the deal. That's not really painting them a clear picture. And this is very important when it comes to building credibility. And I'm going to elaborate on that here in a minute, okay? So as you start having these conversations, and this is what I recommend doing, if you're in the Private Money Club, get your profile up. If you got a deal, share it. If you don't have a deal, but you're trying to build relationships, make a public forum post, right? Which you can do with a free membership too, public forum post. Schedule time to talk with people, and then start explaining what I'm about to teach you right now, okay? So this is what I call the 5-step framework. 5-step framework. Let me hit the questions real quick. And as far as questions go, if it's a question that I think the whole group can benefit from, I'll answer it with the whole group. If it's a question that I think it is more specific to like you personally, then I'll just say hang out at the end of the call and I'll answer that question. Okay. All right, cool. Here's a question. How do you get after repair value from an opportunity that there are no true comps? Well, James, that's a great question. You got to really ask yourself as a lender or as a borrower, even how, that's going to be a problem, right? No true comps. What is a no true comp? If there was a situation where I don't feel comfortable having a real estate agent provide me with comparative market analysis, where the real estate agent looks at all the houses that have sold and based off of their professional opinion, they're going to say, hey, I would probably look to list here. If you don't feel comfortable with going that route, then I would absolutely hire an appraiser to come out and give you an appraisal. So now you can have something done by a licensed professional that says, hey, we had this house appraised, we had this property appraised 3 weeks ago, and this is what they told us, right? So now you have a little bit of more knowledge and a little bit more leverage, right? And then you got to start asking yourself, if it's a property that is going to come back to bite you on the back end because there aren't any good comparable sales, is that a property that you decide to take on or not, right? As a lender, if there's no comps, what does that mean? It's a little bit riskier, right? So as a lender, could you charge a little bit more based off of being unable to predict as well as you could have if it was a home in a neighborhood, right? So those are just some little things you gotta think about there, right? All right, cool. I'm gonna hit these other questions once I share this slide here, but I see them, so thank you for posting in the questions. All right, so let's get into the buying criteria and business model, and I'm actually going to give you scripts, okay? So, but before I just give you the script, I'm going to give you some context around this so that you have like an idea of not just what to say, but why you're saying it, right? So our buying criteria is, I just shared with you numbers, right? We have a very specific buying criteria. If I'm talking with someone and they want to know more about the buying criteria, I already have that figured out. I can share with them the formula that we use. I can talk about the school districts. I can talk about how we only flip houses with 3 bedrooms or more, right? I can get into all of the little details as much as that person wants me to, okay? So keep that in mind. Lots of times when it's important that we don't overshare information. If I get too in the weeds, I might lose the interest of my lender. They might be like, well, I don't know if that's really important to me, or you know what, I had 20 minutes and it's 17 minutes since we started and I still don't know how much the loan amount is, right? So I like to keep this very short. I don't even talk about the buying criteria, but I tell them that we have one. And then in our conversations, if they want to learn more about that, we can spend all the time in the world that we need to discuss what that looks like. But the key here is I'm just letting them know we have a very specific buying criteria. Now, your business model is much more of a big picture type of business model, right? What do? We buy houses for 150, we put 50 into them, we turn around and sell them for 300, right? We have a very specific buying criteria. So the two kind of go together, but just next to business model, think big picture. Right? So like the last thing that we want to do, especially if we're just having conversations with folks, is just to be like, well, oh, what do you do for a living? And you're like, well, I'm a real estate investor. And then just kind of leave it at that, right? Now, what does that mean? Does that mean you own hotels? Does that mean you are a landlord? Does that mean how does that person fit in to that, right? So the more the broader brush that we can paint and give them idea of how they fit into what we do, the better the conversation is going to go. And then we're going to present the numbers. And this is where consistency comes into play. This is why we do all this work beforehand, because when we present the numbers, if we have a deal, when we have a deal, the numbers match up to the buying criteria and the business model. And you'll see this in the script I'm about to share with you. When we present numbers, the numbers that we present, the person that we're presenting them to should be familiar with these numbers already. That's why they are excited to potentially do business with us, right? So let's say you've had a conversation with someone, you went over the buying criteria, you shared your business model, maybe you even gave them a past example of a deal that you recently did that was similar to the buying criteria, to the business model. Now, when you present the numbers, the loan opportunity, everything seems to match up, right? Why is this important? Because you're gaining trust, you're gaining credibility that you're going to do what you say you're going to do as a borrower, right? And I'll share more about that here with you in a minute. I know as a lender, I'm sure you got my lenders appreciate this too, because if you have a great conversation with someone and you're like, oh wow, fix and flip in Columbia, South Carolina, that sounds really nice. So you buy houses for 150, 50 grand in, it's like $200,000 type of loan amount to do business with you. Yep. And then let's say I call that person and I say, hey, I got a fantastic deal for you. And they're like, all right, great, fantastic. What is it? Be like, oh, well, we're buying a hotel and, da 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 da. And they're like, whoa, hold on a minute. I didn't know you were in the hotel business. It doesn't add up, right? So now you got to kind of like, it's not consistent. You see the importance of this? So you'll see next slide. I'll run through it here with you. And then I'm going to give them 3 options. And this is one of my favorite communication plays that I'm going to share with you guys. I'm from Columbia, I live in South Carolina, and maybe it's a little taboo to talk about money down here in the South. Up in New York, down in South Florida, I spent time in both of those places. It's always like, let's get down to business, whatever, right? Here we got to take our time, we got to kind of work into it. So I have a really cool way where I introduce different lending options. I have the lender tell me how much they want to lend and how much they have to lend. And they're extremely excited about sharing that information with me. And it didn't feel like I was prying or asking something too personal, right? So I'm going to share that with you too. And then the next steps, like what does a person need to know to do business with us? And once you get really good at this, guys and gals, 2 minutes or less on the phone with someone, if you've had a conversation with them in advance, talking about who you are, what you do, what your business model is, I think 2 minutes or less, we can get deals funded. And lenders, you're busy people, you've got careers, jobs, obligations, or just simply better places to be than on the phone with someone. Your time is just as valuable. So how cool would it be to just be able to say yay or nay in 2 minutes or less, right? So that's what we're learning here, which is awesome, okay? All right, so here's the first script. Remember, we're basing this off of that little formula that we talked about last week and this week, okay? So this is important. This is why it's good to figure this out before you start asking for money. What's your business model? What do your real estate deals look like, right? So that when you start having conversations with people, they know what to expect.
Your real estate business lives and dies by the network and the connections that you make. I mean, after all, your network, well, it's your net worth. That's what you always heard, right? If that's an area where you desire improvement, well, Private Money Club, it's for you. PMC saves you precious time and money by bringing the real estate world, well, right to you, right in the palm of your hand. So get in on the action, like so many others have, by going to privatemoneyclub.com and sign up.
So this is what I would say, and I've probably said this to a few of you on this call. I see I've had conversations with a lot of people in Private Money Club, and we may have had conversations just like this. Say, hey, we have a very specific buying criteria. Step 1, done. Step 1, done. Just now, I don't need to get into it unless the person's like, well, tell me about it. right? Or if I've already had a conversation with them and they're waiting for me to send them a deal, I might say, hey, Tess, remember, our company, we follow a very specific buying criteria. Done. I don't have to talk about it anymore. But when I mention that up front, it's just reassuring. We're not willy-nilly. We're not just, throwing darts at a dartboard, right? We have intent with the investments that we make. Our business model generally looks like this. We buy houses for around 160. We'll make roughly $50,000 in repairs, and a person's $210,000 loan is then secured by an asset worth $300,000. That's step two. That's our business model, right? So it's easy breezy. So I'm taking these numbers and I'm just putting them in a word problem, right? Remember those word problems like in 5th and 6th grade? Like my son Cruz is doing them now, like in math. He's like, I hate word problems. Here's a real life one. I guess we actually do this in real life, Cruz. So sorry, you got to do your homework, right? But it's real simple, okay? If I have a deal that's ready to go, I'm going to tell them, hey, the deal I'm presenting to you today fits right into our buying criteria and business model. So I'm telling you right now, like that little line right there is so important if from a borrower's perspective, where you're saying, hey, we have a specific buying criteria, we have a business model, the deal I'm giving you right now fits into it perfectly, right? So we're saying, hey, this is a good one. Somebody's going to jump on it if you don't, right? As a lender, I'm asking myself, okay, is this type of transaction that this person's presenting me one that they're familiar with? Is this their business model? Is this their buying criteria? Or are they just throwing darts at the dartboard? Okay. We are purchasing, now I'm getting into the deal. Okay. We are purchasing this property here for $150,000. Our repair estimate is $55,000. The loan opportunity is $205,000. Our team believes that once the repairs are made, the loan of $205,000 will be secured by an asset worth $295,000. So those numbers are not the exact business model, but they're right there, right? It's not, there's no like huge swing one way or the other. So in the lender's eyes, that's got to be like, okay, this is about what Noah said it was going to be, right? I see one of my lenders on here right now, and these are her numbers, right? So, this is why this is so important, guys. And I think if you take the time to figure out your business model and practice explaining it, it's just going to make things so much smoother. And by the way, you're more prepared. The more prepared you are with stuff like this, the more prepared you're going to be through the renovation phase, through all aspects of your business. As lenders, the more prepared, the better someone does at presenting a deal to us. That tells us a lot about how the rest of the transaction is going to go, right? So this is really important. All right, next slide. We have 3 lending options. 3 lending options. So this is step 4. Okay, step 4. So I did the step 3. Right? I went over the numbers. We're purchasing it for this. Repairs are this. The loan opportunity is 205. Okay. And we believe that it's going to be worth 295 once it's all fixed up. Now, this is what I think is super cool, because each of those prices that we kind of figured out using that formula, ARV times 70% minus repair, those are all numbers that a person could lend. And because I taught them this formula, because I'm shared with them the buying criteria, because I shared with them our business model, when I present the lending opportunities, they're excited about this and it makes sense. Okay, so here's what I do. Most people will want to put as much money to work as possible because of the attractive interest rates that we pay, so they'll want to fund the entire loan amount of $210,000. Okay, $210,000. They'll want to do it all. That's the purchase price and the repairs. Some people, for whatever reason, will fund only the purchase price amount of, let's say, $150,000. Okay, so that's option 2. First option, fund the whole deal. Purchase price, repairs, fund the whole deal. Second option, some people just want to do the $150,000 for whatever reason. Maybe that's how much they have. Maybe they're more comfortable being in first position with a $150,000 loan. That means there's a bunch more equity in there for them. You know, maybe that's how they do business. Maybe that's what they're comfortable with. And then there's some people that, for whatever reason, want to fund the repair costs of $50,000 and are willing to take a second position lien, right? So sometimes this might come down to maybe they just want to see how it goes. Maybe they that's all they have, right, in their IRA or whatever. But they'll start at 50. So now I've given them 3 options. They're all great choices, aren't they? They're all great choices. But I'm telling you what, if a person has the full amount, they're usually going to go full amount because they want to make as much interest as they can. I'm paying them 10, 12, 13, 14% interest. So they're like, yeah, why would I not put all this as much as I can in that makes sense for me and my family and go for the higher amount, right? But I give them these options. Now here's what's cool. I'm going to use someone, is Terry listening? Terry Crutchfield, I see on the chat, just commented. So I'm assuming that you're still dialed in and you're not driving down the highway. Okay, great. So Terry, if this was a conversation that you and I were having, and I just gave you the 3 options, I said, Terry, let me ask you a question. Would most people like to fund as much as possible because I'm paying them a stupid amount of interest, so they'll fund the whole amount. Some folks just want to do the purchase price amount of 150. Others like to do the repair costs. And we're just role playing here, Terry, right? Just role playing. Let me ask you a question, Terry. Where do you see yourself starting? Where do you want to start? What dollar amount? I would love to do the whole thing, but I'm not there yet. All right, just if this was a real conversation, okay, cool. Maybe this is what you would say in a real conversation, right? But we're just role playing. So let me ask you a question, Terry. Okay, great. So that what you're telling me, Terry, is I'm thinking 150. Is that where you want to be? Or the 50,000. You tell me where you want to start. We're just having fun, so just pick a number. I'm not gonna hold you to it. Although I pay crazy high interest and have a great track record, you'd be crazy not to fund my deals, Terry. Okay, $50,000 is great for me at this time. I would say fantastic, right? Guys, no matter what number they pick, this is great. This makes perfect sense. You know, all right, that's awesome. I'm gonna give you one more question, Terry. All right, one more question before you hop back on the highway. One more question. Let me ask you a question. How many deals are you comfortable doing at the same time? How many deals are you comfortable doing at the same time? Now, guys, this is a really important question to ask, right? This is the moneymaker right here for your deals and lenders. This is important for you to communicate as well what your intent is. Like if you have more to lend, let the person know. Now I'll tell you why here as a story here in a minute, right? Let me ask you a question. What interest rates the same for all 3 options? I'm not even here's what's cool. I haven't even mentioned interest rate yet, have I? Right? So here Terry said 1. All right, cool. So now in my notebook, I'm going to keep track of my conversation with Terry. If I don't have a deal, I'm going to know, hey, I had a conversation with Terry. It was fantastic. She's looking to do $50,000. Maybe she told me it was in her IRA or whatever. And maybe we talked about what her goals were and how many years she has until retirement. So I'm just making notes of this because I talk to a lot of people. So I want to be able to remember when I have a deal that meets Terry's lending criteria, right? Right. And so, but what if I was talking to Terry and Terry said, hey, I can do 210, no problem. Sign me up. Please let me know when the next one is. I say, fantastic. I would do the same exact question. So I'd say, okay, great. Let me ask you a question. How many of these types of deals are you comfortable funding at the same time? And she might say 2. She might say 3, right? She might say 5, right? We don't know unless we ask. And I'll tell you why this is so important is because, if your goal as a borrower, like as a real estate investor this year, if your goal is to do just, 10 houses, it's 10 houses, and you need $200,000 to do purchase and fix, to do these deals, $200,000 per deal is what you need, and your goal is to do 10, I would be working on, that's you, Steven? All right, cool. So if Steven's goal is 10, Steven's in my market. He's in here in Columbia, South Carolina. Steven, your goal is to find $2 million. And you might say, I don't need 2 million. I just need 200. You just told me you want to do 10 deals. It never happens where you buy a house, you fix it up, you sell it the next day, you have another deal lined up, and you fix it up and you sell it. And by the way, these are only taking 5 weeks to do each of these flips, right, Steven? Like that, it never happens like that. So if your goal is 10 flips and you need 200,000 per flip, you need $2 million. So how many conversations do you need to have? How many conversations do you need to have to get those funds? I don't know about you guys, I would much rather work with 1 or 2 people or 5 people, right? That want to do business over and over and over again, as opposed to 20 different people that all have, or 10 different people that all have, one deal at a time, right? So that little question there of asking, Christy and I were working with someone who we had worked with this lender for a real long time. One of our first lenders, and she started out with $50,000 with us, and we just kept putting the money back in. And my like simple-minded thought process was, oh, well, this is all the money that she has, and she keeps lending more because she's making more, and she's just putting it right back in and doing another deal. And we were in a situation where we needed I don't know, like 250 grand, and we already had like 180, I think, out with this person. And my wife was like, well, why don't you just call so and so? I said, well, I don't know, we've never done that before, we've always just done one deal at a time. And she's like, well, ask her, you big dummy. And I was like, oh, okay. I picked up the phone and she said, sure. Right? I had never asked her this question of like, how many are you comfortable doing at the same time? So, and as lenders, guys, it's good for the borrowers to know how, so that we can properly like plan, and I would much rather go to one person than have to split up between 2 or 3, right? Makes sense, Mary says. Cool. Can we see the slides of the 5 steps again? Yeah, absolutely. I think I got one more slide for you guys, and then I'll go back to the 1 through 5. So then this is kind of like the take action slide. And there's so much that we could do with this and learn about this, but I want to give you something to kind of like tie this all together. If I have a real estate deal that's ready to go, we call these hot and readies, right? You go to Little Caesars Pizza, you pull up and they got a pizza ready, it's hot and ready, you drive away with it. So we like to serve up hot and ready lending opportunities, okay? So if I have a deal and it's hot and ready, like it's under contract, we're gonna move forward with it, then what I would tell the lender is to say, hey, I'm gonna email over all the details of our latest deal that we just put under contract. I have a packet put together. It has our market analysis, deal analysis, information about my team, comparable sales, repair estimates, an up-to-date financial statement of myself and my wife. If everything looks good, we can finalize the terms of your loan, and then I'll get everything over to the attorney. And I remind them, right? We always provide our lenders with a mortgage or deed of trust, promissory note, personal guarantee, and we list them on the insurance just like a bank would want. If you're a lender, just flip it. Here's your process. Hey, you know what? I really enjoyed our conversation. Seems like a great opportunity to work with you. When you have a deal, do you have a deal now? Sounds like you have a deal now. Please your packet about yourself, your team, anything I don't know about you guys yet, please send it over. Deal analysis, comparable sales, repair estimate, right? And Chris is really big on this, financial statement. Send that over to me. If everything looks good, I'll call you back and we can discuss interest rates. Notice interest rate is last, you guys. If you're working with someone you feel great about their ability to pay back and do, they're probably not going to pay 20% interest or whatever crazy interest rates you see out there. I'm just telling you, it's going to be much lower, right? And the flip side of that, if you're working with a lender and that lender's like, this is my 20th loan, I have a process, I can make quick decisions, I can close quickly, my funds are ready to go, I'm very easy to work with. As a borrower, I'm going to pay a premium to work with someone that doesn't need as much handholding, right? So that's why this interest rate conversation, we haven't even had that yet, because we're going to agree on a rate that makes sense for both parties, right? All right, let me go back to this slide here. Is this good stuff? Is this a good class? We got 2 minutes here. I'm going to go through the questions, and I'm going to go back to the slide here. Oops, make a move. All right, real quick, I'll put the 5 steps on as I answer questions. All right, so you guys have it. Thanks, Paul. Awesome. What are your numbers? Make a move. So figure this stuff out. What are your numbers? If you're a real estate investor, what types of properties? What does a deal look like for you? Nail it down and practice it. So if you're talking to someone, it sounds like you know what you're doing, right? Practice the 3 options. We have 3 different options. We have, I want to fund the whole thing. I want to fund the purchase price. I want to fund the repair costs. Which one makes sense for you? And then the $1 million question: how many of these are you comfortable doing at the same time, right? To get a good feel for this stuff. Okay. So I would practice that before you log off. Schedule next week. We do this every Thursday at 1. I'm telling you guys, I'm going to be going over the next 4 weeks. I'm going to be diving into it's 12 steps, exactly what to say during a one-on-one private money lender meeting. So there's 12 steps. I'm talking about, like, if I sat down with someone for an hour to talk to them, what would I say? I'm going to teach you all that in the next 4 weeks. Okay. So make sure you come back next week. If you haven't created a Private Money Club profile yet, do it. If you're here for the first time, it's free. Jose put the link in there, I'm sure, for everybody to go create a profile or do whatever they got to do to get on Private Money Club. And if you're free and you're like, hey, I want to message people and connect on a higher level, just jump to premium. It's easy breezy. There's 3 opportunities to meet people at live events. Most of you on this call are already registered or know about them, so I'm not going to hit that too hard. But if you're on the call for the first time and you're like, what's accelerator coaching? That's me. And I hold your hand, walk you through 4 weeks of coaching on this stuff twice a week. It's a great class. We've got a live event coming up in Utah, Money Tank event, and then there's a virtual class coming up too, which is awesome. So take one, make a move. The guys will put the links in there. You can go check it all out. But all right, let me back up to this slide here, and then I'm going to answer some questions. This 5-step framework. All right, hey guys, if you got to log off, this was awesome. 2 o'clock, right on the dot. Let's go. I'll see you next week. If you want to hang out while I answer some questions, that would be cool too. Okay, just got to pick the kids up from school in 15 minutes, so let's make the most of it. I've seen a deal on PMC, but the person only offers a promissory note. I'm afraid to lend since there's no deed. Would it be wise to lend, or it's a no-go? That's a great question. Earlier in the webinar, I mentioned that anytime I've seen a deal gone wrong, there was no collateral. So if someone's only offering a promissory note, that means there's no collateral. So based off of what I said earlier, if I were to do what I say I was going to do, I wouldn't do a deal like that. What's great about private money? Where else can a person lend money, make high interest, and have it secured by real estate that's worth much more, right? So this was an anonymous question, so hopefully you're still on here for that. But I would tread lightly on that one. Collateral. Let's get the collateral, right? If they don't offer collateral, there's lots of great deals on Private Money Club that do. What about land? What do lenders need to feel safe when lending on land? Well, I think with land, it's all about value, right? It's the collateral, right? Christy and I are just driving around looking at land today. And man, if you can get a great deal, if you can buy a piece of land at 50, 60% of what it's worth, and then have as a lender fund that acquisition. If you're funding a deal and it's 50, 60% of the value, you got great collateral, right? So as a lender, I would be looking at what's the land worth, and then what's the plan with the land. Does the person that's the operator here, like, what's the plan? Do you believe that they can execute the plan, right, and get you your money back, right? So you take a look at the plan, take a look at your collateral, and then say, okay, let me figure out what makes sense for me, right? If the deal's riskier, you can charge a little bit more interest, but you got to ask yourself, at what point is it stupid, the interest rate that this person is paying me? And then at that point, you got to kind of back off and be like, well, maybe this person why is this interest rate so high, right? But what to look for in land, it's collateral, right? What's the plan? Can we post seller financing deals on Private Money Club to look for private funding? Yeah, yeah, I think so, Freddie. I think you can. Absolutely. Seems like a lot of people do, where they'll say, here's the opportunity, and I'm looking to raise the money for the down payment, the 20% down or whatever. I absolutely. And you can certainly post it in the public forum too, as well, right? Next slide. I'm printing them, please. Okay, Steven, only for you, Steven. Steven, I got this. We can link up. I'll go next slide. You guys want me to go next slide? All right, there's the next slide. Here's another one. I made my first offer to lend. First round was already closed, secured with mortgage, and he offered to put me in upcoming second round of his capital raising without mortgage to be used as collateral. Seems legit. Funds wired to a lawyer. I'm not sure if I can continue since it'll not be secured by a mortgage. What are your thoughts? I think sometimes when there's like syndication type of deals, and I'm not going to talk too much about something I don't know a whole lot about. I don't participate in syndication types of opportunities, or where you're pooling funds and where you have an equity position as opposed to a debt position. So like with the mortgage, that's you're holding debt essentially, right? So I'm not sure. I think a good question to ask this person, whoever's deal this is what's the difference between the first time that we did business and now this time, as to why was it offered then and not now, right? And kind of feel that out a little bit, and definitely talk to your attorney too to make sure everything looks good. Will I receive monthly payments or a lump sum at the end? Paul asks, will I receive monthly payments or a lump sum at the end? I think that just depends on like what you're talking about, right? What type of deal it is. If it's a fix and flip, here's what I would say, guys, and take this for what you want. I think this is good advice. I'm gonna give it to you. And again, I'm not a lawyer or anything like this, but I would definitely look into this. I had a very good friend of mine who was one of my lenders, super smart guy, Yale graduate, probably one of the smartest businessmen I know. He was one of my lenders, and we had agreed to, and this is in regards to monthly payments or lump sum at the end. We had agreed to an interest rate, and then I had all the documents drafted for him by my attorney, sent it over to my buddy and my lender, and he said, "Hey, just so you know, I want monthly payments. I don't want a lump sum of interest at the end. I'd like there to be a monthly payment." And I said, "Oh, well, Ralph, I'm running these numbers, and this is kind of how we've always done things, And he said, "Well, let me tell you why I like it. I like to receive monthly payments." And he said, if something were to happen to you, or for some reason the project stalled, or financial disaster, or something crazy happened, and the house wasn't getting worked on, and construction stalled, and it was looking as though I was going to end up foreclosing on you, I wouldn't be able to start that process until you missed a payment. But according to the note here, all the interest is due at the end of the term. So if something happened, in 3 months, and you were like financially in ruins, and there was no way you were going to be able to complete the project, or something crazy like this happened, not that I think that would happen, but if something happened, I'd have to wait to start the foreclosure process. And I was like, wow, that's actually a great point. Thank you for teaching me this. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that, I let people know this, and I can provide them with that knowledge just to help them want to do business with me even more. So I would recommend getting the monthly payments, just so you can think the same way that my buddy was in regards to being able to start foreclosure if something wasn't right. Last thing you want to do too is drive by a fix and flip that you funded, and it was 3 months ago. You look out the window and nothing's been done. Grass is overgrown. You're like, what the hell? I wired you the money 3 months ago. You haven't even started the project, right? That's a little concerning, isn't it? So I think this also, not only does it protect the lender, but I think the pain of writing that monthly check every month for the borrower is a constant reminder to make sure you're moving things along, right? Which is cool. But that's a great question. Great question. All right, cool. This is a great question. Steven asks, What all do you put in the financial analysis, and is there a form that you can share? There's a so we use a financial statement. I actually use the one straight off of Private Money Club. So in Private Money Club, I don't know if it's with the free membership or the premium membership, but you can download a financial statement, and it's real easy to use, and you just type everything in, you know. And as lenders too, guys, just so you know, like I like to take a look at the financial statement, but here's what I'm looking for. Like I want to make sure that the person it has the wherewithal to cover, like, say 6 months of interest payments. I like to see that if they're doing a fix and flip, you know, do they have some extra resources where if the property, like when you're rehabbing it, and let's say that there's foundation work that didn't get noticed, and it's going to be a $10,000 fix, right? Does that person have some excess cash or credit or some way of getting funds to cover the overages for the renovations? Because especially with the fix and flips, where a lot of this stuff goes sideways, is especially if someone's new, they don't know what they don't know. So, you know, they look at that, they remodel everything in the house, but then the house goes under contract to be sold. Everyone's happy. Home inspector goes under the house, and they're like, you have all this wood rot down here. This is all going to have to get ripped up. And next thing you know, that's a $10,000-$15,000 repair that they weren't accounting for. So if I'm looking at a financial statement as a lender, I want to make sure, hey, they can cover like 6 months worth of interest, and they have some way, shape, or form of making sure that the rehab costs are covered if they go over. You know what I mean? So, yeah, that's what I would look for. Great question, Steven. And so just a basic financial statement. There's a great one in Private Money Club if you don't have one already. So cool. Any other questions, guys? There's still 85 of you on here. I guess you must all be Buffalo Bills fans, and that's why you're still hanging out. You just love the Bills. Is that what it is? All right, next. Steve says next slide. Okay. What if we don't have a great financial statement but have a great deal? How can we still get funding to begin establishing a relationship? Do we use a cosigner? Is there another way? You know what's great about private money is there are not these boxes that necessarily need to be checked. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like a bank where they're like, oh, you missed it, your credit score is 3 points below what we like to see, so we're going to decline this loan. This is relationship based. So as long as you're building great relationships with people, you know, I think open communication is so important. And you know, talk about what's going on, you know what I mean, and why you're doing real estate. Hey, if your finances are like, man, I'm doing real estate to improve my finances, that's a conversation that you have, man. And just be like, hey, look, for the past 10 years, this is what I've been doing for a living. I've been, you know, whatever you do for work, you know, comes a point in time in my life where I'm tired of building other people's dreams. I'm working on building my own. I've got a great skill set that I have from my other career. Here in real estate, I've surrounded myself with business professionals that I'm leveraging their experience, their credibility, and they're making sure that I don't make any mistakes or screw up. But I tell you what, you know, I'm gonna do everything I can to take care of your funds. Like, these are the types of conversations that you need to have, right? You don't need to be a millionaire, right? But you got to have the ability to communicate that you have the credibility. And what does credibility mean? Credibility means that you're going to follow through, right? And if you can't follow through, then what are you doing in this business? Okay. So when I look at someone like Kenya and Kenny that are on the call right now, you're awesome. You guys are like some of the most credible people that I know. I would trust you with my family. You know what I'm saying? So how do you communicate that to the lenders that you're building your relationships with? Right? It's probably a lot easier than you think it is, right? Because you're awesome people. So, all right, guys, got to go pick up the kiddos. This was like the best call so far. So make sure you're on the next call. I'm going to go over for the next 4 weeks. I'm going to dissect 12 steps to a private money lender meeting. The same exact stuff that I would say if I sat down with someone at a coffee shop, had a coffee. I'm going to tell you exactly what I would cover and how I would cover it to get deals funded. So you guys are awesome. Cool. Any last questions? Let me make sure. Trust and verify. Can you go over? I think you called it trust and verify. Dexter, I'm not sure. Inspect what you expect. I say that a lot. Step 5. Okay, there it goes. Hot and ready. Steven, sorry. Yeah, cool. Good to see Michelle on here. Michelle on the PMC team. Yeah, I got one of the ladies in the house on the PMC team. I love it. Michelle, get to know her. She's amazing. Out of South Florida. Came up, attended an event Christy and I did here. Michelle Cordero. We went to Puerto Rico. Met in Puerto Rico. No, where did we meet? Mexico. We met in Mexico. Yeah, cool. All right, man. Yeah. Take care, guys. I'm signing off. You guys are awesome. All right, bye.